and a wonderful afternoon to all of you who are here. Welcome, gang. Welcome, YouTube peeps. So excited to read some more A World Away. It's Monday. I know it's Monday. It's the beginning of a week. But you know what? It's Myne Day also. I know that for those of you who are following the pre-pub releases... Actually, wait a second. Is the pre-pub release for done? I'm not following pre-pub for a second. Anybody know?
It is.
It's done.
For Short Story Collection 2 is done. We do get Volume 4 of the manga starting, or Part 4 on Friday.
Yeah, that's awesome. If you guys didn't hear the news, we are getting, they did license Part 4, and that'll be exciting. I did put it on an announcement on the other channel, so hopefully people saw it. But yeah, I am looking forward to seeing Hartmut. that's my favorite of Rosamund's retainers. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, Yukihime would agree. Everybody else, do you have different retainers that you like? And who?
I've always liked Leonore.
Yeah, I was wondering who would say, Angelica, because I see her appeal. She has great appeal. She's also one of my favorites, of course. But anyway, so we're here to read some A World Away, and it's a Myne Day, so let's do this. So in the previous, before that though, I want to say hello to the YouTube chat. Yukihime was the first one. Congratulations, Yukihime says hello. I hope everyone is doing well. Happy to see you, Yukihime, and glad that you're joining us to read. Crusher was also here. Crusher, if you're listening, hop aboard. Says, ha ha ha, it is Myne Day, my dudes and dudettes, I hope. Also, we have Teal, says, rejoice, friends. This is going to be a short, but now it is a proper read-along. You can have an extra chapter as a treat. Yes. Is that a pun that I missed, Teal?
Just read a short, read along.
Yes, thank you for that. Okay, sorry. Yeah, so we were actually...
A little slow on the uptake.
I know. Stop pointing it out. I think everybody knows. Everybody knows now. Magpie is... Yeah. Anyway, so we were going to read only 2 chapters as usual, but turns out that chapter 88 is only like 3 slides long, and 89 was like 5 slides long. So I was like, that's only 8 slides. So we usually do an average of between 15 and 20 slides per read along. So we decided to do 3 chapters this time around. Crusher answering the question about favorite retainer. Thank you for answering, because you represent the dudes here. Daniel for the win. You know what? That's fine.
Whoa, am I chopped liver?
Well, you didn't speak up. I asked, and you were like silent. I got crickets. I was like, what? And JC Fergie too. Fergie, are you there? Are you alive? I see you there, but are you with us? Do you need a mic check? Okay. Crusher says, oof, I'm on break at work. All right, enjoy your break, enjoy your lunch. If it is kind of lunchtime. Yes, it is lunchtime for Pacific. So thank you for joining us during your break. So, Patrick, you're not chopped liver. What is your favorite of Rosamunde's retainers?
Of her retainers, huh? I think I'd say Liesletta.
Okay, yeah, she's a darling.
Oh, I love her.
Yeah.
I mean, I like Cornelius, I like Eckhart, but or not Eckhart. I like Hartmut, but why do I keep wanting to say Eckhart instead of Hartmut? But Hartmut is a zealous, uncomfortable person, and Cornelius.
And I love him.
Cornelius is just a good puppy brother.
Yeah. So they all have their strengths and kind of like what makes them quirky in Rosamine's entourage. Somebody so, somebody with that kind of energy is going to have people that surround her that are going to be far from normal. They're going to have their own thing. So yeah, it's all cool. I will not debate who is the best one. I'm just, we're stating facts here, what we like. So Fergie is on the YouTube chat, says, I'm sort of here. Okay. Well, happy that you're sort of here. And yeah, I'm glad that you were able to join us. So let's get, before we get reading, what happened in chapter 87 and 86 and 87, if you guys will recall?
Some amorous letters between the two lovers were exchanged with the public in the Archduke office.
Yeah, those two lovebirds, they're making people uncomfortable. So they are regularly corresponding, and their love letters have gotten so out of control that scholars are like, please, no, we don't want to read these letters anymore. Please, Archduke, please make him stop. And of course, that wasn't an option. So Sylvester just like, whatever, like they're just writing nonsense. So you don't have to read them anymore. So cool. So we got that. We got an update on Myne's life. The first week was actually really rough for her. She's, however, immersing herself entirely in her studies. And we got a little bit of kind of like her take on her relationship with Dolores. Basically, they're avoiding each other. And, Lady Elvira is doing her absolute best to try to foster some kind of like friendship, or at least some, like let them come to some kind of understanding. But no, it's not working. Even Lady Elvira can't do those kinds of miracles.
Yeah, but it's not exactly equal because, Myne is basically avoiding it, but Dolores is kind of antagonizing her a lot more.
Yeah, she is. So I know not everybody here is a Dolores fan. In fact, I don't blame you if you don't like Dolores. Dolores has done some terrible things in the past. She went and did, cause chaos in Myne's tea shop. Way back in the beginning of the story. Then we got her backstory. And
to be completely fair, it wasn't really her. It wasn't her decision. It was purely Hartmut and Cornelius going crazy, and she just joined in.
Yeah. Yes. She.
Not that I'm trying to excuse it.
Yeah, I was surprised because I'm like, you're the first one that's not a Dolores fan.
I'm definitely not. I'm
surprised. Okay, you're being magnanimous and seeing both sides of the story and treating it objectively. I'm glad. Yeah. See, there's somebody we can trust when it comes to reviewing characters and books and stories. Good. All right. So we got Dolores, a little bit of Dolores back in that chapter 86 or 7, I forget. So now we're going to delve headfirst into some Dolores, but before that, actually, we have chapter 88. Remember, there's a subplot underneath all of this. There's the Rosamine who has been, doing the things with the guidance of the goddess of time. In this fanfic, she actually made a mistake. She created an alternate universe, which is the one that we're exploring right now, and she has to clean that up. So, and there was another chapter that we read was with Ferdinand and how he's in his hidden room, and suddenly Rosamine materialized. Now, you guys probably are wondering why she was able to materialize before she couldn't. Remember, since Myne was already born, she couldn't enter that reality kind of situation. So here's kind of like my explanation. So he is in his hidden room. So those hidden rooms are kind of like an alternate little dimension. But more important than that, though, is the fact that Myne because Myne and Eckhart have gotten really close, and they've exchanged mana and all that stuff. So she's not entirely the same as Rosamine now. So while she still can't be in Aeronfest or whatever, she can materialize to some extent in Ferdinand, in the hidden room, in the alternate dimension. Yeah, sorry, what was that?
I was just saying they engaged in adult activity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember in the chapter where first there was a chapter where Chaosopher came in, but before that, the goddess of time was looking at the threads, and she's like, "Oh, the thread color has changed." So the thread color has changed. That's Myne's thread, the alternate frayed thread. That has changed because she engaged in those activities. And so that's also one of the reasons why Rosamine can no longer communicate with Myne. Yes? Kind of makes it clear-ish if you had any questions.
I am curious how aware is Rosamine of why her counterpart suddenly doesn't have the same colors. Like, what's up with that? Like, what is she doing? Like, I'm curious how aware she is of what she is doing with basically her brother from another
for real.
timeline.
Well, believe it or not, she's not aware of what's happening with Myne. The one person she could only have access to is Ferdinand, because he still has the same kind of makeup, I guess, as the original Ferdinand. But it was only through dreams.
His months
and he's keeping her away. So she has very little information about the other Myne. Unless Ferdinand and Myne are together, she doesn't know what Myne is doing. Yeah?
Mm.
Yes. Mm-hmm. All right. Okay.
Before we start, please also welcome other people to join us on the coffee and come here and read with us. And also for the viewers, like and subscribe here to this channel. We got to get it to 1,000 subscribers this year.
Yes, do that, everybody.
I have definitely started a tradition where everybody shills your channel for you, Magpie.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much. And of course, there's always room in the nest for more members, more nestlings. And always happy to see you guys here. Thank you for your support, for likes, comments, and subscribes. All right. One more thing I think I see in the chat says, is there a self-insert in this fic? Not really.
Elvira.
That's wishful thinking, though. Like, I wish I could do a self-insert.
Oh, come on, Magpie. You've said it yourself.
I mean, yes, but no.
Look at your profile picture, Magpie.
It's wishful thinking. It's wishful thinking. But honestly, I wrote Elvira as a boss woman that she is, not as Magpie cosplaying as Elvira. Because, yeah, otherwise she would not be, the Iron Lady that we all know and love. She would just be, kind of like Magpie. And Magpie is different than Elvira. I just want to be Elvira. When I grow up, you guys, I want to be Elvira. All right. So Crusher also asks, so is the time-traveling Rosamine canon Rosamine? Yes, that's canon Rosamine. So remember, during the Hannelore, she has to be sent back in time to fix threads and all this stuff. She made a boo-boo, now she has to fix the boo-boo. Yes, but she is our canon Rosamine.
I don't know if she made the boo-boo, but I think she's trying to mend the weave that the gods sent her on in canon during the Hannelore story.
Well, yeah, so there's in the Hannelore, somebody cut the threads, yes? So those are the ones that she has to fix. There was one instance where the thread was cut, but she couldn't go in because her version of herself she had already been born, so she had to force her way through, and that caused a rupture and an alternate reality to be created. So that's the boo-boo that she made when she tried to go through in chapter I forget, 40 something. I forget what chapter it is, you guys. All right. Okay, so I think we got... I just wanted to clarify that because the next couple of chapters or so, I'm taking a lot of creative liberty with this, so just roll with it, okay? Especially with this chapter 88 called Realms. So today reading we are going to have for 88, mostly me, narrator, with a few lines from Rosamine by Yuki, who will be read by Yukihime. Chapter 89 is A New Friend, and reading is going to be Adelaide will be read by Little Purple Butterfly. Welcome back, Little Butterfly. Happy to see you. And Dolores will be read by Teal. Then chapter 90 is Children, Part 2. And reading will be Hartmut, will be Patrick, and Bianca will be read by Teal. Okay, yeah. Did I say Dolores will be read by Teal? Okay, yeah. So yeah, again, a special thank you to Teal and to Hirami, who unfortunately is not with us, but they're the ones that put together the highlights version. So thank you very much for that. Super appreciate that. All right, everybody, let's start with chapter 88, Realms. How long she had been stuck in this limbo of memories and dreams. Not years, certainly, but long enough to become adept at navigating between Schlaftrum's and Dragoner's realms. She had quickly learned to scrub through time to find memories where she could communicate with Myne and Ferdinand in this messed up alternate reality. And soon she was able to travel through time and stretch it or shorten it to her bidding as she visited the past and fast-forwarded through the faded threads of the alternate weave that she needed to fix. The most challenging part of her task wasn't just working from the shadows and trying to influence both Ferdinand and the version of herself in this weave through dreams, and being very unsuccessful at it. It was getting Ferdinand to listen to her once she had his attention, and making him believe her. Ferdinand was naturally suspicious and wary of anyone, but she hadn't anticipated just how deep his fears ran. And if that wasn't bad enough, the conduit through which Rosamine had easily influenced Myne's dreams and memories was now closed off to her. Remembering the goddess's warnings, she feared that Myne had bound herself to another, or her thread had altered in some way that made her unrecognizable, which would complicate her plan significantly. Meanwhile, Ferdinand, the one person she could still access, was resisting her. Things were going so badly that when she made the discovery of her ability to materialize in the physical realm at long last, she wanted to weep with joy, until she realized that he still did not remember her and was even more suspicious of her.
Ferdinand, you dummy! At least feign that you're happy to see me. You have no idea how far I've come for your sake.
Seeing him, touching him, and being able to hug him made her feel happy, but also so homesick. She had thought the pre-baptismal baby version of himself adorable, and the 16-year-old version of himself who had embraced her and had resisted the idea of letting her go had made her pulse quicken a little. He had been very dashing, but it was this Ferdinand that she found most appealing, because he was closest to the one that she had left behind in Alexandria, the one who was dying and whom she wanted to get back to. But at what cost? She shuddered at the thought of what she had to do and pushed it to the back of her mind, leaving that problem for later. Surely the Ferdinand of this week was just as talented as her Ferdinand and could help her find a solution for this particular problem. She had been thinking of ways to make him believe her, all the while trying not to think of how urgently she needed to act, when she realized that she had at last found a place where the divide between this and the physical realm was next to non-existent. Passing through into the other side as easily as anything, she found herself face to face with the startled Ferdinand in his hidden room of all places. Well, that was surprising to say the least, and reminded her of that one time, not too long ago, when he'd similarly mistaken her for a foe and almost attacked her. She managed to convince him to listen to her But the moment his questions got too difficult to answer, she had vanished like a coward. She couldn't talk about her task. It wasn't that it was prohibited, but sheer instinct told her that disclosing all would be a capital error. Meanwhile, she retreated into the in-between realm, floating weightlessly through time and memory to think of what to do next. Except that, now that she'd materialized in the physical realm, she was urgently reminded that she had a body, and that she was incredibly hungry and thirsty, and tired too. She took a deep breath and closed her eyes.
I can form vivid dream scenarios built from memories of my past. I can manipulate them at will. I can also pass through to the physical realm. So what if I brought back items with me the next time I see him and make the intangible tangible?
Her stomach growled louder, and she felt a painful lurch in her tummy. It was a crazy idea, but she figured, why not? Closing her eyes, she recalled the dinner she and Ferdinand had had just before she departed for the Royal Academy to complete her 5th year. The very last meal they'd shared together had been a midnight repast. It had been a light but tasty meal with soup, sandwiches, salad, fruit, tea, and various desserts. She imagined it all and set the lifelike scene in front of her. There was a beautifully laid little table, a table for two, and there were the comfortable couches, the lit scented candles, and though winter was not as bitterly cold as in Ehrenfest, there was also a fire burning in the hearth. Perfect. Before she could capture the scene and take it with her, the memory shifted and she saw herself dragging Ferdinand to the table. She was reminding him that he'd missed dinner and she wouldn't let him neglect himself. Ferdinand had grimaced, complaining that she was the reason why he was toiling away so much, but had sat down anyway. Rosamine heard their low murmurs over the sound of clinking china. Ferdinand was chiding her about earlier behavior unfitting of an ob, but she had laughed away the accusation. They ended up bickering and poking at each other good-naturedly, but Rosamine could see that they cared for each other very much, like family. But was that really true? Her attendants and family members seemed to be convinced that she felt far more for him than mere familiar affection. And while she had slowly been getting used to seeing the warmth and tenderness in Ferdinand's eyes directed at her, she had believed all this time that she remained the same as always. However, seeing herself with him made her reconsider what she felt for him. Maybe she did care for Ferdinand differently than she cared for her parents and siblings. The thought startled her, however, and she waved away the figures at the dinner table, leaving behind only the meal, the candles, and the dinner for two. Holding the image firmly in her mind, she traveled back to the opening she'd found to the physical realm, and was satisfied to see that, while time had passed, Ferdinand was still in his hidden room. There was a considerable amount of resistance this time around, though. Schlaftröm was displeased with what she was trying to do, but in the end he allowed her to proceed when she told him it was the only way to complete her mission. He warned her that by doing this she would once more be bound by the loss of the physical realm. He would still allow her to jump from the intangible world of memories and dreams into the physical, but she would no longer be able to manipulate time and play with it as she'd done until now. Rosamine paused and weighed her options. If she proceeded, she'd basically end up tied to the present and would no longer be able to so easily influence her alternate self from this weeb. Nevertheless, she figured that now that she could access the physical realm, she would be able to finish her task quicker once she enlisted Ferdinand's help. It was impossible to get in touch with her alternate self anyway, so deeming it a risk worth making, she crossed on to the other side, heaving all the things she'd brought with her, with the help of a great burst of mana, not knowing that she would come to regret her decision in time. End of chapter. Note. Yes, so this final part is, that is part 9, is where I take the most artistic license with the source material. You're all probably confused. I'll try to explain it as we go. But the fact remains that this is supposed to be Cat and Rosamine interacting with an alternate reality that is not supposed to exist. She's probably making things worse and worse, but gremlins will gremlin. So, oh well. Thanks for reading. Hope you enjoyed the updates. XOXO.
Her struggle is so heartbreaking.
Yeah, I don't know if I've made it like really clear what she has to do, but yeah, it's she has to take some action.
It seems like she jumped into this task thinking, "Oh, I know Ferdinand. I can easily get him to jump on my side," without realizing, without her influence, he's a bit more standoffish than she would think.
Yeah, it's like we kind of saw how he changed little by little in her influence in canon. But he was very rigid-minded, very suspicious, very cold, and unfortunately, Myne just never really got to him to the extent that Rosamine did. Got to change him, and of course, there were a lot of circumstances that really altered his way of looking at life. You know, specifically him going to Arensback. That was like a huge point for him, and the poisoning, etc., etc. I mean, being poisoned and almost dying, that certainly does do a lot of things. Yeah, so, well, good luck, Rosamine. We'll have more Rosamine chapters later, mostly Ferdinand, Rosamine, because we have to know about what's going on with sovereignty, but that's for later. We're going to continue on with Erenfest chapters.
I love I love Myne, but like I love Rosamine and Ferdinand in this. It's like they're so different from canon, and then so interesting.
Yeah, so I'm reading your comments as she's doing her best for him, and all he gets in return is bitter rejection. Yeah, so yeah, that's just Ferdinand being suspicious of her. Maybe she can break through. I mean, she is now able to break into the physical realm, so she's now able to materialize. Again, it's only in the hidden room. And then says her feelings are changing, but it feels like a little too late. So up to the point where she left, she and Ferdinand had already kissed, and you know how much they did or whatever. It's up to us to consider, I guess. But then again, people do like kissing without really feeling romantic things, or they can convince themselves that they're just doing it because it's nice or whatever, or they're fun, but they can be like, this is not romantic stuff. There's people that are deluded like that, or that are cold like that. If you're a player, you're gonna be doing that. And then there's people who are just not in tune with their feelings yet, or they're different. That's fine. All right, so but we'll explore that a little bit more later. Now we're gonna do chapter 89 again. Back to Erenfest.
Crusher asks, so then if this is canon Rosamine, would her feelings for Ferdinand still be Storge love?
Yeah, so she I don't think that she feels for Ferdinand the same thing as her family, that she feels for her family. So even in canon, so she's slowly, I think she's becoming this experience with her losing Ferdinand, with his thread being cut, and with the the likelihood that he is going to die. I think that definitely is going to, in canon, is going to make her reevaluate what her feelings are. That's just what I think. Like the handler situation where he's fading, I think that definitely is going to alter how she sees him. So this is like a little bit of that, like a little bit of insight where she here in this chapter we just read, or I just read, she's kind of like beginning to question, like, maybe I don't feel like storage love or familiar love for him only, maybe. And she's starting to question it. I don't know if it's Eros. We'll see. Maybe I would like to think that there's something like different than family though. So anyway, 89. Let's do this. A new friend, Dolores. Summary. Life is not fun for Dolores at the Linkberg estate, but at least she makes a new, if unexpected, friend. Dolores was in the bookroom at the Linkberg estate. Though it was still the middle of the day, she wore her sleeping clothes under her robe, and her unruly long hair was plaited into 2 thick braids which were tied with crimson ribbons, matching the frilly ones of her sleeping gown. She wasn't a great reader by any means, but she needed to distract herself, especially now when she was stuck on mandatory medical leave, and she needed something to distract her from the heavy weight on her chest that made it hard to breathe these days. The Linkberg household should have felt like home, with Lady Elvira posed to become family in a few years, and the house set to become hers and Cornelius's when he inherited it. Yet after nearly 2 months of shared meals, lessons, and socializing with Lady Elvira's friends and close acquaintances, Dolores felt an inexplicable divide between her and her future mother-in-law. Oh, this is me. You and Myne are to be sisters one day, Lady Elvira had stated matter-of-factly soon after Dolores arrived at the Linkberg estate. I know things didn't start well between you two, but I hope you can set aside your differences and get along, for both of your sakes. Dolores had inwardly cringed at Lady Elvira's direct reference to her involvement in the salon incident. Still, she was determined not to commit to something as revolting as getting to know that spoiled, pampered, infuriatingly superior vixen who seduced other people's older brothers on a whim.
I look forward to getting to know her better while I am here, Lady Elvira,
Dolores had replied with a smile as sweet and cloying as the gritty sugar cubes they now used to sweeten their tea. With Arenspec sugar no longer available, Anfas nobles were reduced to replacing it with a sweetener made exclusively from local products. Just as consuming too much Anfas sugar left an odd aftertaste, so did her insincere smile leave a bitter taste in her mouth. How long would she have to endure this charade to gain Lady Elvira's approval? To no one's surprise, Dolores and Myne did not get along at all. How could they? They avoided each other whenever possible. By tacit understanding, they arranged their lives and schedules to avoid crossing paths within the estate. Yet Lady Elvira was nothing if not determined. She enforced shared meals and tea times in an effort to foster harmony between them. However, the longer Dolores spent in the company of the 2 other women, the more she resented her future, quote-unquote, sister. She hadn't exchanged more than half a dozen words with her in the past few weeks, but the servants talked, and Dolores' attendant reported all that she heard. The servants would comment on her rival's superior scholarship, intellect, grace, manners, and feminine charms. Dolores realized, as Ludmilla reported her findings, that even if she had wanted to make friends, it was unlikely that she would ever have anything in common with such a paragon of female virtue. What a bore she must be! She felt no desire to get to know her better, much less befriend her. She hated her too much to even consider getting along with her, knowing she was the reason why Dolores and Hartmut were so terribly estranged. To his credit, Hartmut had tried to meet with Dolores. On the very day she'd first moved in, he'd come to the estate. She'd perked up at the news of his arrival, believing that he had come expressly to visit her. However, she turned petulant and angry upon learning that he had arrived for work, related reasons, and, in her mind, was simply throwing her a bone by idly inquiring after her, out of obligation. As a result, she had childishly denied his request to see her each time he came. And he did come often. He spent a great part of the day at Myne's side, tutoring her. On the days she didn't have to go to the castle, Dolores sometimes sneaked around the Linkberg estate, trying to catch a glimpse of him or hear what they were saying. Did they ever speak about her? And if they did, were they saying bad things about her? Of course they did. No one ever had anything good to say about Dolores. Well, no one except for Lady Isolde and Lady Marina, the two girls she had dragged to the salon weeks ago, and who had latched on to her back when she'd been so alone during the first day of winter socializing. They were still creatures of a different species than Dolores, but they seemed nice enough as Dolores spent more time with them. She was glad that when Lady Elvira had suggested that she invite friends over, she had been able to procure those two and prove that she wasn't altogether a failure at socializing. Anyway, one day, as she surreptitiously paced the corridor leading to the brewing room where Myne and Hartmut were, she was surprised beyond words to hear him laugh. That woman had made him laugh! On one hand, Dolores felt strangely moved hearing that familiar and nostalgic sound. It brought to mind those warm days by the hearth in the family parlor, with Ottilie humming softly as she embroidered, while Dolores drew in her notepad, only for Hartmut to make fun of her silly doodles. More often than not, Dolores ended up retaliating by striking him again and again with a cushion, while he laughed and pleaded for her to remember she was a lady knight, and he a mere weakling of a scholar. They'd go on shouting and laughing until their bickering got so loud their mother had to intervene and remind them that they were no longer children, and could they please behave and not destroy her cushions. Hartmut never laughed in the presence of others, not that carefree, unpretentious laugh he only gave at home. Was Myne so special to him that she had reached a Hartmut few people other than herself knew? At that thought, Dolores felt a sense of betrayal and rage unlike any she'd known. The next day, when he arrived and once more asked her to please come down and talk to him, she sent her most vitriolic, foul-worded response yet. She'd regretted it soon afterwards. Perhaps she had been a little harsh, and anyway, she could no longer deny she missed her older brother. Besides, she knew she was doing herself no favors behaving this way. So she decided that the next time he came around and asked for her, she'd run down the stairs and greet him warmly, as she should have done those weeks ago, but hadn't because she'd been so embarrassed after kissing him. For his sake, she'd put aside her pride and see him if he asked for her again, and beg him to drop in and visit her, for her own sake, and not just to ask for her because he was there for work. Except he didn't ask for her again. The next day she waited for him, unseen, at the top of the stairs, ready to come down the moment he sent the servant with his message to her. But she waited in vain. He headed directly to the brewing room where Myne awaited him, went about his work, and punctually left without a word or message for her. Dolores watched from her bedroom window as a driving snowstorm swallowed her brother's slim form atop his high beast, and for the first time since arriving at the Linkberg estate, she succumbed to bitter tears of regret. Day after day thereafter, she waited for a message that never came. Despite her outward show of bravado and lack of sentimentalism, living in such a vast and strange house away from her own family and familiar surroundings got to Dolores at last. Even her appetite decreased significantly, so much so that she almost blacked out after a particularly brutal training session at the castle and was only saved from collapsing when a fellow knight caught her just in time. She was sent home after the physician at the barracks saw her condition and ordered her to go back home for a mandatory rest. But home was not home. She had not been sent to her home, but back to the Linkberg estate, and Dolores struggled to keep from weeping as Ludmilla, her unsympathetic attendant, coldly chastised her for faking illness to get attention. It was a stupid thing to do, Ludmilla said, now that every able-bodied knight and apprentice knight was needed to face the Lord of Winter. What would her future father-in-law say when he learned that his son was marrying such a weakling? What was she good for if she wasn't at least strong and physically fit? Dolores didn't have the heart to scowl and rage at Ludmilla. She merely rolled into a ball under her covers and closed her eyes, imagining that she was back home. If she were home, Ottilie would be fussing over her. Ottilie, who had only birthed boys, often overcompensated when it came to Dolores, and Dolores loved her for it. Ottilie was not shrewd and overwhelmingly competent like Lady Elvira, yet of the two women, Dolores admitted that Dolores admired her placid, mild-tempered mother more. Ottilie had always been patient and forbearing and was wise enough to know how to handle her. She would probably have talked some sense into Dolores before life had gotten to such a deplorable state, had Dolores not been so reluctant to confide in her mother sooner.
Mother.
It was only now, away from home, that Dolores realized how fortunate she had been to grow up among people who truly loved her. And what had she done to repay them? Precious little. She had always been bad-tempered and was an utter failure of a daughter. A disappointment. She had managed to snatch Cornelius, but an advantageous marriage was little consolation. Her fiancé had the terrible habit of flirting with other girls, which was a point of contention between them, and they often found themselves quarreling over it. Not only that, but he was busier than ever. Cornelius immersed himself in rigorous training with the Knight's Order for the Lord of Winter hunt. Rumors of Klassenberg having to contend with multiple Lords of Winter cast a shadow of fear over Ehrenfest. The harsh winter blizzards heightened their apprehensions. They were experiencing conditions worse than any of the elders could ever remember having seen in their lifetimes, and so severe that they were all beginning to fear they would have the same fate as their northernmost neighbor. Yet, unlike Klassenberg, Ehrenfest did not have the advantage of a Zent from their duchy, sitting on the throne, who could send additional troops from the sovereignty to help them with their ordeals. The winter ahead looked bleak indeed for everyone, especially Dolores, who was more miserable than ever, trapped as she was in the Linkberg estate. She often found herself wondering if she should have been better off had she not interfered with Leonor and Cornelius's relationship. Then, maybe... Dolores mentally shook herself. The stillness of her room, combined with the incessant buzzing of angry questions and disquieting doubts in her head, threatened to drive her mad. She rolled out of bed, reached for her robe, and instead of having Ludmilla fetch her a book, made her way to the bookroom herself. In spite of it being the middle of the day, she didn't cross paths with anyone on her way there. The bookroom was equally empty, but the fire was lit and it felt cozy. She settled into a couch and cracked open a book she randomly picked out from the bookshelf. She didn't finish the first page before hearing soft footsteps of an intruder.
Damn it, it's probably her.
Dolores thought with an inward sigh of annoyance. How could she have forgotten that Lord Eckhart's water goddess loved to be surrounded by books? Dolores glowered at the person in the doorway, but instead of the disdainful beauty she'd expected to find, she saw a little girl with golden curls and large, alarmed blue eyes staring back at her.
Ah, that must be Lord Lamprecht's daughter.
The child who didn't belong. He'd caught a glimpse of her once or twice after her lessons with Lady Elvira, scurrying along with her attendant as she made her way back to the side building where she lived. The child's grandmother seldom referred to her as more than yet another of her responsibilities. In short, she wasn't overly fond of her. No doubt, Dolores reflected as she gazed on the tiny child. Adelaide expected to be ordered from the room. Maybe she expected to be questioned as to why she was there and who had given her permission to even enter the bookroom. For a split second, Dolores imagined that the child standing there, looking so uncertain and afraid of the grown-up glowering at her, had inky black curls and ruby red eyes. She recalled how she had been, quote-unquote, welcomed The one time she had ventured into the house of her father's first wife. She'd been met with abuse and insults that had cut deep into her childish soul. To this day, the harsh rejection she experienced as an innocent child was a vivid memory she would not soon forget. She would not do the same to this child, whoever she was. Dolores wiped the scowl from her face and attempted a smile. Judging by the increased alarm in Adelaide's face, the smile didn't entirely come across as friendly. But at least the child didn't cry or run away. That was something to be thankful for.
Oh?
Dolores asked from her seat, trying to show an open and inviting expression.
Do come in and sit by the fire. It's nice and warm in here. I'm Dolores. What's your name?
The little girl blinked as if in disbelief, then seemed to gather herself. Relief washed over Dolores as tension visibly left the girl's shoulders, and she gave a pretty little bow.
My name is Adelaide.
End of chapter.
The lady's so cute.
Yeah.
So Dolores is human after all.
She is, believe it or not. So it's taken for a long time apart for her to see the evil of her ways. How she's, she realizes that she had it good in her home and her family, and she wishes she could do better now for them. But, yeah. So maybe she can have a redemption arc. Maybe. I don't know. But she does have, as Yukihime says in the chat, she has empathy for a scared little girl, because remember, Dolores was also kind of like in her shoes, or at least she believes that Adelaide is in the same situation as she is. She sees Adelaide and she's like, oh, I bet like Lady Elvira doesn't like her, doesn't like show affection to her. So she makes these assumptions, right? Because, Lady Elvira is overwhelmed with stuff. So when she does mention Adelaide, it's always like, oh, I have to like deal with that child and do the training and then come back and train you guys and then make sure you guys are not fighting. So Dolores has kind of like made this wrong assumption that Elvira does not care for, does not love, and is bullying Adelaide, or that Adelaide is being bullied in the main house. But that's not the case. It's just Dolores kind of projecting. But I mean, that kind of helps.
Adelaide is Lamprecht's daughter, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Lamprecht and Aurelia's daughter. So because they're disgraced, they are not going to be the official parents. It's going to be Elvira. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought she's preparing her, but
no,
they were still going to be her parents.
No,
Oh
Adelaide
my God! So she's adopting Adelaide.
Yeah. So basically, when she becomes baptized, she's going to basically leave her family home. But for now, she's living with her parents. I mean, they live on the other building, not too far from the main house. But yeah, right now Adelaide is not yet baptized.
Noble society is scary sometimes.
It is rather, right? So yeah, so it's kind of sad. But the other alternative was Adelaide never gets baptized, never goes to the academy, never becomes a noble. So this is the lesser of the two evils,
I thought that she was gonna be like baptized as her parent. Like I don't know. They are disgraced, but like, does that mean that they can't appear in any situation, like at her baptism, the child's baptism and stuff? Like I thought they were still going to be her parents. She just will have like the stain on her reputation.
I don't know. You're an arch noble, and there was a pretty big purge regarding the Veronicans. So I think they want to break from that. Like, yeah, people will know that was the daughter of Lamprecht and Elvira. There's no way that they will not know. But
Lamprecht and Aurelia, not Elvira.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Oh my gosh, yeah, between Lamprecht and Aurelia. But the fact that she is absolutely going to be brought up under Elvira, that's going to mark that this child is separate from whatever chaos happened in the back. They want to make sure that that there's no negative connotation. So it's going to be Elvira under the Florencia faction. Yeah.
I wonder if the
anywhere.
Called Patrick and then Yukihime.
Sorry. I wonder if the Lee's gangs are aware of Aurelia's unnatural resemblance to a certain person that they don't like.
Yeah, Aurelia's not showing her face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Though I'm pretty sure that Elvira would have made her show her face to her, so I'm wondering if, since Elvira isn't quite under Rosemine's influence like she is in the canon, I wonder if she was accepting of that.
She had a hard time with it. But then again, like when Lamprecht and Aurelia married, Veronica was still kind of in power. So they were still kind of in the periphery of the Veronicans, but they weren't fully involved yet because, again, Aurelia came from outside and she's very shy. So she was never really absorbed into the Florencia faction, into the Veronican faction, which is kind of one of the things that helped her to not get caught up entirely in the trouble that happened when the Veronicans were all basically wiped out.
Yeah.
But yeah, the lazy gang people do know about about Aurelia. I don't think that she has shown her face though. I feel like she hasn't. So I don't know. Not in this weave. I think she still decided to hide it.
Yeah, let's make something clear because there was an entire chat. So Rosamine at the end of the series has like her unofficial coming of age as a commoner because she is the same age as Lutz, and so she is of age from a perspective.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, there was a little bit of a debate in chat about that.
Is. Where's it?
There's misunderstandings in text.
Yeah,
okay, so like that's what I want to clarify. Yes, she is not of age from a noble perspective. She has another year and a half for that, but she is of age as a commoner and
it's her real age is she's an adult now.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's okay if we sexualize her.
Is that the reason why the debate comes up? Okay.
This is what started it.
Okay. Yeah. So by the way, you guys, I will never really write or I don't like fanfics, you guys, where Rosamine is not of age and stuff like that happens. I can't vibe with it. Like, people can vibe with it, but I'm not. So I make sure that she's, yeah. Okay, just putting it out there.
I support this.
All right, good. With that understanding, let us do our last chapter, which again picks up from, Dolores. But this is kind of gives us now a little bit of a POV from Adelaide. So this is actually the first Adelaide chapter, or kind of the first time we see Adelaide's life and her point of view, I guess. So let's do this. Chapter 90, Children, Part 2. Adelaide Dolores. Summary. Adelaide and her relationship with Dolores and Myne, and how it leads to an unexpected reconciliation. 6-year-old Adelaide hummed happily as she walked home hand in hand with her attendant Bianca. As they entered the smaller building where she lived with her parents, attendants, and her beloved pet Shoemills, she reflected that today's lessons hadn't been so bad. Grandmother had been less stern than usual and had even praised her harpsichord piece, promising some sweets as a reward.
Harpsichord?
Hartspiel.
There you go.
You seem quite pleased, my lady.
Bianca pointed out upon their return. She helped her little mistress out of her heavy coat, boots, and scarf, then playfully tweaked her adorable button nose. Adelaide giggled, and her bright blue eyes, usually wide with anxiety around her grandmother, sparkled with joy.
Grandmother liked my song. Then Lady Myne came in and said that we should celebrate with a formal tea party. And Grandmother said we could. I have to think what I should bring.
Bianca hesitated, wanting to remind Adelaide that Lady Aurelius's approval was necessary, not just Lady Elvira's. But she held her tongue, not wanting to dampen Adelaide's spirits. The little girl was rarely so spirited and excited.
That sounds wonderful. However, I thought you got along best with Lady Dolores.
Oh, do too. I like her too.
Adelaide exclaimed. Finally free of the cumbersome winter clothing she had to wear whenever she crossed over to the main house and back, she skipped ahead up the stairs.
Lady Dolores likes to play games and draw things for me. And Lady Myne is so good at everything and explains things better than my tutors. It's because of her help that I got better at my Hartspiel piece.
Bianca sighed inwardly as she followed her charge upstairs. She did not envy the little girl, who was so uniquely situated in a family notorious for its drama. Adelaide's parents had barely escaped the purge following the fall of the Veronicans, adding their own share of the scandal. Yet, even isolated as they were in the side building, some news from the main house still reached them. This winter had brought 2 new inhabitants to the main house, whose open antagonism had become the talk of the servants. Bianca wondered how Lady Adelaide would react if she ever learned about the intense competition happening between her beloved new friends, and how she might be caught up in it if they weren't careful. Adelaide did not have brothers, sisters, or playmates other than her shoemills, but growing up she didn't need anyone in order to tumble about and amuse herself in the garden. In fact, she had a universe of imaginary friends and creatures for companions to make up for her lack of playmates. Yet when she met Big Sis Myne and Big Sis Dolores, Adelaide almost immediately took to them. Adelaide first met Big Sis Myne entirely by accident. Myne had been hurriedly walking down a corridor, carrying a thick sheaf of unbound papers, as she turned a corner without looking. Adelaide, who had been walking slightly ahead of her attendant and was rushing to reach her class with Lady Elvira, collided with Myne at the intersection. A few sheets slipped from Myne's pile, and Adelaide ended up falling back onto her bottom. She looked up, ready to apologize, when she saw the most beautiful young woman she had ever seen. Lady Myne had blue hair, tied up in a complex hairdo. She wore a white outfit and smelled of flowers. Concerned, Myne immediately asked if Adelaide was okay, not even minding that the impact had scattered some of her papers. After Bianca helped Adelaide up and murmured words of apology, Adelaide, on the verge of tears, explained that they needed to hurry or her grandmother would scold her for being late to class. The blue-haired lady nodded in understanding and offered to go along with them to explain the situation. Adelaide was relieved and happy for her company. When they reached Lady Elvira's class, the stern expression on her mother's face softened considerably as Lady Myne explained what had happened. To make up for it, Lady Elvira asked Lady Myne to stay for the rest of the lesson to help Adelaide practice her conversational skills. Adelaide, too awestruck and nervous, quickly ran out of questions to ask. Sensing this, Lady Myne took up the conversational thread and began asking questions like,
Do you like books? How many books do you own? Which are your favorite books?
and so on. Lady Elvira soon chided Lady Myne, lecturing her on the need to practice her own conversational skills. However, unlike Adelaide, who often felt like crying when scolded, Lady Myne only smiled sheepishly and thanked Lady Elvira.
I'm sorry, I keep forgetting myself. I'm so thankful for your correction, Lady Elvira. I promise to keep your words in mind next time.
You simply need to practice more, Myne. I look forward to seeing the results of your hard work. Meanwhile, Adelaide's eyes went wide as saucers.
Grandmother always says the same thing to me, too. And she looks as stern as when she scolds me.
Adelaide realized then and there that Lady Elvira wasn't just a meanie, and she wasn't stern because she didn't like her. She was trying to help, in her own way. As for Lady Elvira, she had seemed surprised to see that the continuously anxious expression the child always wore around her relaxed when Lady Myne was nearby. Am I really that intimidating? Lady Elvira had pondered after Adelaide went home that day. Meanwhile, Myne was inwardly gushing over how adorable the little girl with the golden curls was. And she was a bookworm in the making, too. Hadn't Adelaide answered that she didn't dislike books, despite having had very opportunities to read anything other than difficult textbooks? Myne decided in her heart of hearts to dote on her and gift her as many books as she could, determined to turn her into a bookworm. Lady Elvira noticed this, recognizing the Lady Elvira noted this. Recognizing the effect recognizing the benefit of having another person involved in their lessons. To encourage Myne to step away from her books occasionally, she scheduled Myne's lady training and Adelaide's lessons at the same time once a week. Together, they engaged in various activities, from embroidery and conversational practice to Haarspiel rehearsals. Each session concluded with a small tea party in the schoolroom, often ending with Myne eagerly leading Adelaide to the bookroom to recommend a new book for them to discuss during their next meeting.
It's like having our own little salon meeting,
Myne said. Thankfully, little Adelaide soon began to appreciate books. As she struggled with reading, Bianca would read them aloud to her, thus immersing Adelaide in tales of magical creatures and faraway lands that expanded her horizons like never before. At home, her parents kept a few books, mostly filled with indecipherable scribbles, and all too advanced for her. So it wasn't until Lady Myne had chosen books for her age with wonderful illustrations that Adelaide truly realized how wonderful books could be. Big Sis Dolores had seemed a bit unapproachable at first. Adelaide had thought that she looked very fierce the first time she encountered her in the bookroom when she had gone to return a book. Yet not long later, when it was her class time, Dolores had dropped in on her lessons with Lady Elvira, and somehow lessons had been a little bit more fun with Dolores also participating. Little did she know that Dolores had been very curious to know how the little girl was treated by Lady Elvira, and had been relieved to know that Adelaide's grandmother, while strict, was not unkind or harsh. Adelaide's mother had initially hesitated about her getting close to either Lady Myne or Lady Dolores. However, after a lengthy discussion among the adults, they concluded that it would be beneficial for Adelaide to form connections outside her close family circle, especially if it was under Lady Elvira's watchful eye. Thus, Adelaide gained 2 playmates. Dolores liked physical activity. They couldn't play in the garden due to the weather, but they'd go to the vast 3-story gathering hall where Dolores would teach Adelaide self-defense skills, stressing that it was never too early to learn. Adelaide had expressed her desire to become a knight like her parents, so Dolores eagerly showed off her skills and offered to teach her things. For the first time, Dolores found herself on the receiving end of an admiring gaze, which bolstered her confidence. She performed the sword dance she had been practicing for her graduation, demonstrated complex sword prayer movements, and showcased her ability to shoot targets with a bow and arrow while riding her high beast. Dolores, for all that she sometimes acted like a child, was still a strikingly beautiful young woman, and she looked so noble, majestic, and fierce as she performed these feats that Adelaide never failed to be impressed and clapped enthusiastically in appreciation. However, Dolores didn't spend all her time just showing off. Most afternoons when Adelaide came over, they played games like hide and seek, treasure hunts, and fortress building, balancing skill training with fun and playful activities. Lady Myne, on the other hand, had a quieter demeanor than Lady Dolores. Everything about her, her clothes, her graceful movements, her well-articulated voice, and her ability to charm everyone, even grandmother, mesmerized Adelaide. The little girl loved and admired her mother for her kindness and gentle nature, and she found grandmother frostily charming in her own way. But Lady Myne was a totally different creature, and Adelaide idolized her. Part of the reason Adelaide started reading books was because she wanted to be as smart and knowledgeable as Lady Myne, who was her inspiration. If Lady Myne was the way she was because she liked to study, then Adelaide had no other choice but to apply herself and do the same. It was just that reading was so very difficult. The letters swam on the page, and her head hurt after poring over the books. She hated to admit it to Lady Myne, for whom reading was as important as food and water, so she said nothing about it. For many days, Myne remained unaware of the little girl's trouble with reading. Adelaide's two big sisters were bound to meet at some point and discover their shared title of older sis. It happened thusly. Myne had been busy all week, and 2 days before their planned playdate, she apologized and said she had an urgent errand. Their get-together would have to be postponed until the following week. Adelaide was initially crestfallen, but her spirits lifted quickly when she found out that Lady Dolores was off duty that day. Since Adelaide had expressed interest in improving her skill with the bow and arrow, and it was a fine day outside, not too sunny or blinding from the snow, with still air and no breeze, Dolores procured everything necessary for target practice. She set up the targets in the garden and had Adelaide warm up, stretch, do torso twists, arm swings, and joint rotations before allowing her to practice her drawing technique. Dolores was serious about teaching Adelaide the proper way to handle archery. When Adelaide finally shot her arrow, it went flying off course, not even hitting the target. Dolores reassured her.
It's all right.
And moved the target a few paces closer. This time, the arrow did strike the target, though was still a far cry from hitting the bullseye.
Your form is perfect,
Dolores said.
but you have to remember that an arrow's trajectory is a symmetrical, parabolic path that starts at an upward angle, peaks, and then arcs downward until it hits the target.
Adelaide didn't quite follow all the grown-up words. Dolores frowned.
I could draw it here in the snow, but there's a picture that explains it perfectly in one of the books. Come, let's go upstairs, and I'll show you.
It was there that they came upon Myne, 2 of her attendants, and 1 of her scholars, all looking very busy and absorbed at some scholarly-looking work. They looked up in surprise at their entrance.
Don't mind us,
Dolores said, her voice sounding oddly flat and cold. Adelaide noticed that she momentarily grimaced towards either Lady Myne or the red-haired scholar who stood next to Lady Myne's chair and who bent over her work with an absorbed air.
We're only here to fetch a book and we'll be out of your way soon,
Dolores said, walking quickly to the other side of the room and turning her back on the group.
Adelaide!
Lady Myne said, standing up and walking towards her without even acknowledging Dolores's words.
You're here!
Adelaide, a precious innocent child, ran towards her idol and embraced her, not knowing that what she was doing was, in Dolores' eyes, treason of the worst kind.
Myne, we're here to borrow a book.
Oh, what kind of book? I rearranged things recently, so the location might have changed.
Myne said.
Don't bother yourself. I can find it.
Dolores replied flatly and then pretended to be engrossed in the shelves to avoid further conversation. Her young companion, however, was not in on the plan.
Archery.
Adelaide answered.
You're way off course then.
The red-haired scholar said with a soft chuckle, striding toward Dolores.
Sorry.
Is it me?
Yep,
Sorry.
Yuki.
I just realized I had a snack for you.
Lady Myne said, as if suddenly struck by a brilliant idea.
What do you say we go downstairs to try it, Adelaide? My scholar will help Lady Dolores, and we'll be back with snacks for everyone.
Adelaide cheered, and everyone exited the room, chattering animatedly, excited at the prospect of tasty snacks. Everyone, that is, except for Dolores and Lady Myne's scholar. Needless to say, Dolores found herself at a crossroads. Left alone in the bookroom with Hartmut, of all people, she felt like a cornered animal. Even the little friend she had brought along seemed to have betrayed her. She stood motionless for a long moment, staring blindly at the rows of books, their spines blurring before her eyes. The only sounds were the crackling fire on the hearth and her own heartbeat, which seemed to thunder in her ears. But she knew that she was not alone. She could sense Hartmut's presence without turning around. She had developed manner sensing just over the past few weeks, and it was the first time she sensed him, her beloved, infuriating older brother. And after several months apart, they were finally close, just a few feet away. Yet they had never felt so distant. The silence dragged on.
Say something.
She finally demanded, her voice tight with emotion. She balled her hands into fists, bracing herself for the condemnation she was sure would come. After all this time, he would surely tell her that he was done with her, that he would never forgive her for her behavior.
I've missed you. Have you been well?
Hartmut asked softly, in a gentle tone he reserved for very rare occasions. Dolores' chest heaved, and she swallowed a sob, her entire body trembling as she battled within herself. He hadn't changed. He hadn't. She had, and she had been so wrong to be so angry and jealous. She wanted to turn around and throw herself at him, hug him, and beg for forgiveness, as she should have done months ago.
Stay where you are. Don't let him see you cry. And don't you dare plead.
One part of her mind ordered.
No, you coward.
Another voice argued.
Turn around right now and face him. Don't you dare let him see you cry. Don't give him the satisfaction. He'll only mock you. He won't. And if you don't turn around, you'll probably never have another chance to make things right.
Dolores was openly weeping now, shaking uncontrollably. She leaned her forehead against the bookshelf, the cold wood a slight comfort against her fevered skin. She felt Hartmut draw nearer, one step, then two, and then he wrapped his arms around her, and Dolores finally let herself go, weeping and crying like she hadn't done in a very long time.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
I understand, Dolly. Don't cry so.
She clung onto him even more and cried harder. She felt him chuckle a little as he tucked her head under his chin.
You never change, do you? Have you been torturing yourself over it all these months?
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
Yeah, I know. You're acting out of stupid impulse, and then when your silly head finally caught on to what you'd done, you didn't know how to act. You think I didn't know that? Sheesh.
I didn't mean it that way. I only hated the thought.
I know. But let's not get into specifics right now. As much as I hate to cut short this dramatic reunion, I fear the others will return soon. How about trying to calm down a bit, Dolly?
Dolores smiled at the sound of her familiar nickname.
Okay.
She closed her eyes, and still holding on to Hartmut, she took deep breaths, inhaling his familiar scent until she felt calm again.
Good.
He said once she had stepped back and regained her composure.
That aside, however,
He frowned.
care to explain what in the world you think you've been doing all this time? Are you absolutely out of your senses?
Dolores remembered belatedly that Hartmut's gentleness came at a high price. He proceeded to reprimand her for letting her relationship with Lady Myne, Cornelius, and even her own family deteriorate to the point where rumors and gossip were causing their mother distress. But at least she was speaking to him now, and as her older brother, he wasn't about to let her ruin herself. By the time the others returned, chattering happily and bearing snacks from downstairs, Hartmut had almost driven Dolores to tears once more with his reprimands and lectures. Only their arrival put an end to the torment. Dolores found, for the first time in her life, that she was genuinely happy to see Myne's face.
My savior.
End of chapter.
So Hartmut can cause even the most stone-hearted to appreciate Myne.
Yeah. I mean, as would you rather be like driven to tears with chastisement and then like suddenly see another face that will bring about the end of that? Yeah, I think it was the first, but it happened. I mean, just imagine Hartmut going into like, I'm gonna scold you, and he can get super scary, I think, Hartmut. So imagine him like going like dark, scary Hartmut mode. I think it frightened.
Is that just Leberect?
Who? Oh yeah.
His dad? Yeah.
You know what? Yeah, probably. Leberect is, I feel he gives like really like cold vibes. So yeah, definitely Leberect. We don't get to
I'm
see
so
a lot of
glad they
Leberect.
could finally. I'm so glad they could finally talk to each other. Hartmut was probably worried sick about his stupid little sister.
Yeah, he was. So despite the fact that they fight and stuff like that, they're really close siblings. And again, he was mostly worried though that because all of this kind of like a cold war that she has going on with Myne, this isn't just like a thing that's a gossip between like the servants of the Linkberg estate. The information is being leaked out somewhere somehow that things are not going very well with them. So he's like, yeah, like there's rumors and stuff. So like, what are you doing, you idiot? You're supposed to be like improving, like, you know, racking up, like improving your points here, and you're just making things worse. So yeah. So that was 90. Wow, we finally reached the 90s. All right, and yes, we are still in the middle of the Dolores winter arc. So I hope you enjoy the next couple of chapters. The next one is Oh, it's a Heartwood chapter, but we will leave that for Wednesday. Chapter 91 and 92. So
I think it's so cute how you made the dynamic in which each of the big sisters each has like her own role to play. Like with Myne being all about books and learning, and with Dolores being active and the night and stuff. So like it's so cool.
yeah, because you don't like. Sometimes when you ask like somebody like, who do you like more? Like you can't just say, oh, I like this person more, because they both bring something absolutely different. So yeah, I wanted to make sure that Adelaide knew that this is for like graceful stuff. This is for like my career stuff. So she respects them. She thinks that they are the best, the most awesome in their own spheres. I was like, I really don't want there to be like the Adelaide to make the relationship worse. I actually wanted the Adelaide to be like a bridge between them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that they have a common goal to bring Adelaide up as a lady in different ways.
Yeah.
I just find it absolutely adorable that she idolizes Myne.
Yeah, I mean, it's adorable and hilarious because we know that inwardly Myne is an absolute. she's a mess. You know, like when she was. Okay, so I'll take over the conversation. How many books do you have? Which are your favorite books? Do you like to read? Like she's trying her best to pass off as a proper noble lady, but inside she's still a book gremlin. But yeah, it's cute that Adelaide doesn't see that really. She only knows that, oh, Myne likes to learn, so I have to learn because, you know, I want to be like her. But no, it's not that Myne likes to learn, it's that Myne likes to read. That's all. She will read anything. Let's see. So yes, a new bookworm has been born, but there is a little issue with poor Adelaide. She's struggling to read. So that's unfortunate, but maybe she'll get a little better, maybe? I don't know.
I did catch that. As someone with dyslexia and struggling with reading and everything like that, it's like, yeah, I can relate a lot to this character.
I was wondering if that was what was going on with her. I've heard many people with dyslexia say that it's kind of like the words or letters are dancing around on the page.
Yeah, I never really quite go into detail as to what it is, because, but like definitely in the comments in this chapter, people were saying like maybe she's like farsighted, like she needs glasses maybe, or maybe it's dyslexia. So I leave it to you guys. I didn't want to like say like it's this condition and then like try to get everything right. But if you're able to see it, I'm glad, because I was kind of going for a little bit of that. So okay, I just don't want to be like, you know, when you write like a certain like experience and you're not very well, don't know exactly how it works. So I just didn't want to like be like, here's how it is and here's how like diagnosing the thing. So yeah.
Well, now it's my headcanon that is exactly what's going on.
Yeah. Awesome. I love the bake, so yeah, go ahead. So yeah, but we will address the reading, the struggling with the reading part in a future chapter. So don't worry, it's all carefully thought out for the most part. Yeah, we have Dolores. Dolores' biggest victim is herself. Yeah, so Dolores she's learning. She's like, her experience with the Linkberg estate in my head is more than just lady training, she has to learn about herself. So it's a learning experience for her to live apart from her family. I mean, she was always like this kid who was kind of like the daughter of the second wife. But she always had like this safe place with her mom until it was ripped away from her, and she was sent off to some strange house, which of course was terrifying for her. But yet she was lucky enough, and she realized in these chapters that she was lucky enough to be in a good house. Like, yeah, Lebrecht is probably not the warmest of fathers, but I think the fact that he left everything of her upbringing to Artely, like he just gave like, Artely, here's this child, you bring her up or whatever. He's not really involved in it. So I think it was a good call, because Dolores just wants somebody to love her, or like some safe place, I believe. So that's something that she's now lacking in this new place. But maybe she can, figure out a path for herself. Maybe. Let's see.
It's interesting that Elvira is kind of treating her as like already a young lady, already an adult. She doesn't need to be spoiled or pampered, like how she does with Myne, who is older.
Yeah, so Myne, so she doesn't quite treat. Okay, so Elvira had sons, right? And I feel like mothers that had sons and mothers that had daughters, they're slightly different in the way they would, they would be in the same position, I think. So Elvira's really giving everything she can, her best. She's a strong woman and she's doing her best. Like, it seems like she's cold to Dolores, but she's not. And she's giving Dolores almost the same treatment as Myne. It's just that Myne is more mature, and she doesn't need that cuddling. She doesn't need that.
Yes,
yeah.
I enjoyed that. It took Adelaide a change of perspective to see how Myne interacted with Elvira and how Elvira pretty much treated them the same. For Adelaide to be like, oh, Emma's not a meanie. She's just looking out for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Again, we have another fan to the Elvira Club. Hopefully, hopefully Adelaide will come to admire her grandmother as she should. She is the real paragon of virtue, I think. But anyway, we'll give her a little bit more time to appreciate, her grandmother Elvira, who's the best. But yeah, we have that. We'll have the next couple chapters. We will have more Ehrenfest stuff. I think we're gonna stick with Ehrenfest for the next couple of chapters, next few readings, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah, I do look forward. This might go into a direction you might not expect. So, excited for that. So yeah. Crusher wants a number. How old is Rosamine? Rosamine is okay. Her body is physically, she is 15 years old. So she's 15 years old and around 6 months, because she turned 15 in the summers, and it's now winter in the Hannelore spin-off. So she's 6 months into being an adult. There you go. So that's her age. Now, in the way that nobles see her, she's 14 years old. She still has another year to go, plus before she's considered an adult. Yes, I hope that makes it clear.
I thought 16 was the magic number for becoming an adult.
No, it's 15.
No, 15.
15. It's
but with the academy being at such a point in the year, if you're born in spring, then you're basically 16.
Yeah. So So
I mean, either way, you have to wait until you have to wait another year after your graduation from the academy to have your star binding. So it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I think that has to do with like preparations and stuff like that. But But yeah, because I
I'm
was also
curious.
wondering at first I was like, wait, I thought they went to school for 6 years, right? So I was like, no.
Yes.
So I actually did finger math. I was like, okay, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Oh, okay, that's 6 years.
Yes.
So yeah, if you do finger math, it makes sense. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. That's 6 years. That's at the academy.
So
Yeah, it's confusing because it starts with 0 because you start at 10.
Mhm,
Yeah.
So Liz made one of my favorite jokes. She mentioned that someone is a brocon.
You know what? Fair enough. Dolores did kiss Hartmut at some point.
We got a kiss.
Yuki, are you excited over that kiss?
Not really, but it's like funny. But like that, this makes it official. You know, the ship is sailed. Okay. A kiss has sealed the deal.
Now, here's an interesting comment from Teal. Says, fun fact, Dolores is less tsundere and more tsunshun. She displays that harsh, disinterested side and then goes and feels bad about it afterwards. Teal, can you give us more information about this?
It's really just instead of showing the Dara side where you like show your love to a person eventually, beyond that prickly side, you just like go in and frustratedly cry about how you keep messing up.
Wow. Okay, so there's a new term. Yes, that's exactly what it is. I just didn't know there was a term for it. Oh
It's
man,
a pretty niche term, I will say.
Tsunshin. But yeah, that's exactly what she does. She does bad things and then she goes to cry to repent over it. And then, but because she's proud, she will not admit to it. And it only takes like being pushed to the absolute limit before she will like finally be like, okay, fine. And that's only if she does it. Like she was really debating with herself. By the way, thank you, Teal, for the Dolores read where she's battling with herself, like no, turn around and face it. And the other's like, no, he's gonna make fun of you.
Yeah.
No, do it.
The angel and the devil on her shoulder.
Mm-hmm. Now, who is the devil and the angel here remains. Yeah.
I feel like the voice of her mother really haunts her.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we don't get. Yeah, we do get some utterly we do get actually some utterly, but it's always with regards as to like a retainer. I just kind of like went with an utterly that at home she's very nurturing, very warm, because again she didn't have sons, and when she met Dolores, she basically fell in love with the little girl and decided then and there that she was going to dote on her. So I mean, she was like, okay, I live in a house with a scholar, Lebrecht, who... Lebrecht is a very rational and cold kind of person, I can venture to say. And again, Lebrecht and Ottilie did not marry for love, so...
No!
They did not marry for love. They did not marry for love. Lebrecht wanted to marry a girl. Like, he was really in love with a girl. They loved each other, but his family said, no, you will not marry that girl. So they forced him to break off that engagement or that understanding.
Oh my God.
And so Lebrecht became so bitter against the lazy gangs that he decided to throw his lot with Florencia. That is why he's such a stalwart supporter of Florencia, because he just decided to go against his family. And that's canon.
Yeah, I think I heard this from you.
This is canon. This is not me just pulling it out of, the air or wherever. Ooh, Teal.
Yeah.
Teal. That is... Ooh. Maybe instead of the angel and the devil on her shoulder, it was Delphina versus Ottilie. Yeah.
Yeah, two voices of two parents inside of her, one much more critical than the other.
Mm-hmm.
There are two worlds inside of me.
Yeah, so in the end of the story, or if she has a story or an arc that she has to complete, which spoiler alert, we do have a Dolores arc. Which voice will prevail?
Hopefully, Ottilie.
Well, Delphina is a strong, determined one, so maybe, who knows? We'll see. Hopefully. Crusher, we are not gonna get into this debate. I think it's been done so many times in the Reddits and the discussions on Discord and whatnot about the age and being an adult, etc., etc., etc. I can quote how years in Jürgen Schmidt are longer, so that kind of brings up a 15-year-old's age to closer to 18.
Yes, I agree with that. I also did the math
Yeah.
at one point.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot we can talk about that, but you know what? Just because you have Eros love, that's probably not necessarily be like sex. It's like romantic. So yes, you can have romantic love before you're 18 or 16 or whatever. Yeah. So anyway, let's just kind of I'll let you interpret it as you will. But again, like I am a firm believer in not sexualizing Rosamine before she becomes of age. So there.
Becomes of age as an noble or
in her world, in her setting. Yes.
No, as a noble or as a commoner. I need.
Oh, for me?
Well,
yes, for you. Like, are you?
Okay, so
are
for
you
me,
okay with?
okay. Here's the thing, you guys. Rosamine is an adult. Yes, Ferdinand knows that she's an adult. So if they keep all the things, you know, all the hanky-panky, after she's an adult in her body or whatever, that's whatever, fine. But before she becomes of age as a commoner, that's just not. I'm like,
Okay, so as a commoner. Okay, we agree.
Sorry, Patrick, you wanted to break in there.
I was just gonna say I need to restart my computer so I can have a screen back because my screen decided no, I don't want to work right now.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll probably have been done, but yeah, we'll do Hannelore read along. So hope you join us. Thank you guys for joining us. I had fun with these chapters. Again, thank you to the following people who read. We had Yukihime read Rosamine / Myne. We had Magpie read Elvira. At some point, I was like, "Who's this role?" It was me. I forgot myself. Thank you for your patience. Then we had Adelaide, was read by Little Purple Butterfly. Glad to have you back, Butterfly. And we had Teal, who read Dolores, and she also read Bianca. And then we had Patrick read Hartman. You guys are awesome, and also thank you to highlighters, Hiremi, and Theo, who did these chapters. We'll see you on Wednesday. I think it's going to be in the afternoon, like closer to 4
And
or
don't
5.
don't forget before we go to like and subscribe to this channel so that you can see more of it, and also join the coffee so you can be here and debate all the important stuff.
Do so. This is important stuff, you guys. We're gonna and also have access to all the memes that I can't show because I keep forgetting to sometimes. So all right, everybody, take care, and thank you, gang, for reading. We will see you on Wednesday. Bye.
Bye.
But